a good chance it's already lotion. So we're just going to jump right in.
Yeah, I see the okay thing.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Katie Hardie. She's a board certified holistic nutritionist and a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner. She takes a comprehensive approach for holistic health and performance programming. Her company, My Peak, helps high achieving or dedicated health and performance minded individuals optimize their energy management, nutrition, and body composition through a personalized, data-driven approach that takes into account her client's unique bio-individuality. And I love that word, actually, bio-individuality. That's pretty cool. Welcome, Katie. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. We just had a quick conversation before this. If you're not, well, obviously you weren't in the conversation for the people listening, but nutrition is everything. Mindset is everything. You have to take into consideration the entire body, mind, spirit. And I love what you do as far as getting deeper into it than just regular lab work and blood work and everything. And we're going to get into all of that. But tell us a little bit about how you got into what you're doing.
Yeah, I've always had an interest in science, how the body works, how the mind works, and it's kind of been a couple decades of layering on different education programs and trying to take people from wherever they're at to a better spot. And so I kind of combine the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, the cooking to make all the things your body needs taste amazing and make it approachable and accessible.
Oh, so you cook too.
Yes.
To gain with healthy food.
It was an adult learned activity, yes. So it's later in life.
Gonna say I was the worst. Neither of my parents cooked. Ate out
Mhm,
5 times a week,
mhm.
and it was amazing when I started actually feeding my body. People, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I actually grew from 25 to 27 years old. I grew over 2 inches.
Wow.
And I remember everybody saying, "No, that can't be." And I'm like, "I'm telling you." Like even the doctor was like, "No, you definitely grew." And it was like, "Why?" And it was like
Yeah.
because for the first 24 years of my life, I scraped by. I didn't feed myself. I just picked at whatever I was not a good eater at all. I never slowed down. I never appreciated
Oh my
food. I
gosh.
never took the time for meals.
Mhm.
Um, if my body felt like I need vegetables, I literally would go to the grocery store and buy a head of lettuce
Yeah.
and eat it with blue cheese dressing. Like that was my idea of, okay, that's my vegetables for January.
Yeah.
So it
That's kind
was
of
bad.
similar to the Midwest mentality where I grew up.
Oh, where you grew up in Iowa, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Whereabouts?
Davenport.
Okay,
It's on the east side.
my ex-husband's family's in Storm Lake and
Yeah.
Storm Lake, Sioux City, that
Yep.
area.
The
I don't
opposite side. Yes.
opposite side.
Uh-huh.
So so getting into nutrition, I'm just going
Yeah.
to jump in there because I know
Yeah.
that's so important for people.
Mhm.
What are some talk about how like if you're sitting here right now and you're like, well, I don't know if I eat well. I don't know like what are the foundational starting points for someone that just knows nothing about nutrition?
Right. So the I think most basic way is of thinking about it is, do you recognize it? Like, is it in a bag, box, or can, or is it as kind of nature, grows it or raises it? Because whole foods, generally for people, are going to be the most optimal source of nutrition, and food is information for our cells at the cellular level. That's what allows processes to happen, like you were mentioning with your growth spurt later in life. Your cells don't just need calories or energy, they need nutrients, like the right
Right.
building blocks. And then back to what you're keying in on was the bio-individuality. We're all different. We do all have different needs. And that's kind of where you start with whole foods, and then you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of which whole foods are ideal for my body type and my needs at this point in life, given all the other stressors that might be on your lap right now.
And how do you like give an example of what stressors might be associated like with bad health or depression or those kind of ailments,
Yeah,
I guess you could say.
totally. So a lot of times people think of mental and emotional stressors as stress, which they are. And we can also have physical stressors. So, if we have misalignment in our body and that's affecting how our nerves are firing, how our body moves. We can have biochemical imbalances. So cortisol, DHEA imbalances um, will also affect sex hormones, can, digestive enzyme lack of production affects how much you digest, absorb your food. So there's a lot of internal imbalances that you might not be able to identify, but that is creating a stressor on the body. So it's kind of a mix of, yes, the things I think people are more familiar with, the mental, emotional, financial, relationship, not getting enough sleep. And it's kind of that cumulative bucket of, them all filling in and how well are we able to handle it versus kind of recover from it.
Right. Absolutely. And just you mentioned the I call it the C word, the cortisol word, because everybody is, everybody hears this now, the big, there's kind of every phase of life. You go through these different cliches, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
or trigger words, or right now they're the hip words. And right now everybody's talking about cortisol, everybody's talking about adrenal fatigue, everybody's talking about um, narcissism. There's all these like
Mhm.
tag words that are going a buzz right now. But cortisol is super important. And I truly believe, and I don't know what you believe, but I'm going to ask you.
Mhm.
Um, I think everything stems from inflammation.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think if
for sure.
everybody could get, and people say, well, I'm stressed, but I'm not, my body's doing okay, I'm eating well. But inflammation, is caused from all kinds of stress. So it could
Mhm.
be the emotional, it could be the mental, and it could be the physical.
Mhm.
And I feel like if you could just get your inflammation out of your body.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. That is where like all disease stems from. And
Yeah.
it's not like this one event or this one thing. It creeps. It's like the iceberg underwater. It's happening and
Hmm.
you might be unaware of it. It's once it surfaces that you're like, oh, there's the iceberg. Or for people, there are going to be many weeks, years, even decades of potential dysfunction occurring before you have like that obvious symptom that you're like, oh, something's off.
Right.
And that's all inflammation brewing. And so
Right.
once it hits, the surface, then people usually start doing something about it. But we're typically a little bit unaware because we tend to tune those things out of our body or ignore the signals our body's giving us that would alert us that, hey, there's some things maybe we could be adjusting or working on.
Hmm. And so that's what you do. You go to the
Yes.
root. You
Yeah.
go to all the way to the root.
Yep. So what I do is kind of instead of waiting till it gets to that full blown dysfunctional point that would show up on a lab range as being out of range, I like to look whether it's blood, urine, stool, saliva, just getting into gut functioning, hormone functioning, um, nutritional status, but figure out where the optimal ranges are. And then when it starts getting in that gray zone, because you're not either good or you're bad, there's a whole lot of in between. So we want to
Right.
be checking it. Oh, hey, you're not in optimal zone. You're also not in dysfunctional zone, but we don't really want to wait till you're blood sugar gets to be in that pre-diabetic, ultimately diabetic range. We want to catch
Right.
it sooner by looking at your fasting insulin versus only like your, fasting blood sugar level, because that's going to tell us much sooner. And we can look at inflammatory markers from the blood. We can look at how well our gut is, breaking down, absorbing food, because nutrition isn't just what you eat, it's actually what you digest, absorb, and assimilate into your cells. Because as you mentioned before, you're kind of you didn't say these words, but it sounds like what you meant. It wasn't just what you're eating, it was how you're eating. And if you're
Hmm.
eating in a stress state, your body is, not sending blood to your stomach to digest, absorb, even create the digestive enzymes or hydrochloric acid to break down the food. It's thinking, how are we going to get out of this situation?
Yeah.
We might not be around tomorrow for the digestion piece to even be relevant to waste resources on.
Yes. And that is a very important thing. And when we talk about the rest and digest, and
Hmm.
people have heard the basic, but they don't really understand exactly what happens. And that's the simplest way I've ever heard it put. I mean, it's very simple. If your body is in fight or flight, it is more concerned with running and saving itself than digesting the next, or getting ready to spit out those acids that are going to digest anything in your stomach. So
Hmm.
it's um that's one of the things I tell people all the time is people are like, well, I meditate after I eat dinner. I'm like, meditate before you eat dinner, and then you're
Hmm.
calm when you're eating
Yes.
dinner. So your stomach's like, I'm not gonna, then your stomach will actually kick into gear and your whole system
Yeah.
will start to do what it's supposed to do.
And even sitting down, that, if you are on your feet, inherently your body's in a I'm moving mode,
Hmm.
so we are thinking, even though you might not feel I'm stressed, your body is responding in a way that it's preparing to take action versus calming down and secreting digestive enzymes and the juices and all the things that are going to help. So you see this all the time with people like kind of wandering around their island, like shuttling kids off here and there, or eating in the car as they're moving and having to focus on the road. And again, a lot of these things are common, they're normalized, and it doesn't mean that it's normal for your body to, do that at all, let alone day after day after day.
Right. And I always go back to the thing that, God made us these beautiful, oiled, perfectly constructed machines that have a system. The system did not involve running while you were eating. Like those
Right.
things.
No, no, it was like it was designed to deal with it in seconds, maybe minutes, and then be done and then move on, not to have it 85% of your day.
Right. And that's a lot when we go back to that cortisol. And it's so funny because I had someone I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago and the host said to me, "Well, I know my cortisol's not high. Like I'm good. I'm not in fight or flight because I'm exhausted and I'm not
Mm.
on edge." And I was like, "Well, maybe you're like over the top." Like
That's the
maybe your adrenals have literally been like, "Enough. I'm not giving you any more cortisol because I can't process all that."
Yep, and that's a worse spot than actually having elevated cortisol because what happens is we have this diurnal rhythm where you wake up, your cortisol is low, and then it should immediately spike. And that's an indicator of solid health and vitality. And then it drops and continues to drop throughout the day. As your cortisol drops, your melatonin should be rising to prepare you for quality, restful sleep. And so what happens in an acute stressor, yes, it does elevate and it can still follow the pattern. It might not follow the pattern, but it should be capable of elevating so you can deal with the person coming after you, the bear, the, stressful conversation, you name, the workout, the training, and then
Mhm.
it should come back down. And you actually feel pretty good when you have that higher cortisol. And a lot of times it can correlate with adrenaline, and that's very addictive. And so people can thrive off of that for days, years, even decades. It's what you said when it comes on the backside of the curve that all of a sudden we're incapable of creating what we call a cortisol awakening response first thing in the morning. And where our body cannot handle the stressors, it's just like flatlined and it's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to have that motivation, that drive to go do your workout or to do your work or to take care of whoever you're taking care of, yourself.
Do anything.
Hmm. And so
Really.
that's actually a worse off situation. So cortisol gets this rap, as it sounds like that person did, with it being a negative thing. It's a very healthy, normal, natural component of being alive, and we need to have cortisol. Otherwise, we would die. And
Right.
so you also want it in an appropriate pattern and appropriate levels throughout that pattern. So if somebody's so exhausted, and again, it's not a technical term, but people understand it, so I use it, adrenal fatigue. That's when you're just not popping that morning cortisol and you feel like kind of crappy and you need the caffeine versus maybe just enjoy the caffeine.
Right, right. It's your comfort thing. Like coffee is
Hmm.
my comfort thing, but I don't
Yeah.
need to have it to wake up.
Yes.
What do you think about I know, and this is just my observation when I was a kid or even going into before I did all my good woo-woo stuff and helped myself feel better. But every time I stopped, if I had more than 2 days off of work, I got sick. I
Hmm.
always just assumed it was because I was so used to running on adrenaline
Yeah.
that as soon as I stopped and my adrenaline, like I was like, ugh, I was like, and I don't know what it caused, but I always just assumed it was because my body was like, okay, you're resting now. You can now do all the things that your body was trying to do when it was up here.
Yeah.
And that included getting sick or fighting a cold or doing that kind of stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, all your reserves. So your body always handles today's stressors at the expense of tomorrow. Tomorrow is like what we talked about, the digestive enzymes, hormone production, thyroid functioning, immune cell production. So if you're not here tomorrow, it doesn't much matter if your immune system's up and running. So that kind of takes a back burner. So chronic stress is going to negatively impact all of those quote unquote long-term projects. And
Mm.
that is typically why that'll happen. It's not because you're resting, it's because it's following a time where that got backburnered.
Okay. So I was right and wrong at
Yeah.
the same time. Like,
It,
and
yeah, same concept, just maybe like a slight change in
uh,
explanation.
that's what, yes. I put it in layman's terms because I
Hmm.
was 25 and I'm like, I know. And I used to say to
Hmm.
people will be like, can you want to take a couple days off? And I'm like, no, because I'll get sick. People are like, that's so weird. And I'm like, no, but every time I have more than
Yeah.
2 days off, I get sick.
Yeah, well,
And
and
it
cortisol's, yeah, it's anti-inflammatory, so it has like beneficial properties when it's utilized in sporadic doses, like 5, 10, 15% of your day versus 85, 90, 100% of the day.
yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people that grew up in the type of dysfunction that many of us did, their cortisol is raised all the time. They're
Hmm.
always in that fight or flight. We
Yeah.
talk about that hypervigilance where they're
Yep.
just waiting for the next shoe to drop and, things to happen. And that takes a long time, but for the people listening, the good news is you can
Yeah.
get past that and you can get yourself out of that state and
Yes.
learn to, feel peace and calm and feel safe in your own body.
It's reversible, yes.
Absolutely. Um, so what kind now my daughter went to a holistic naturopath. I don't know exactly integrative.
Yeah.
She went to a very good doctor, let's just put it that way. And he did tons and tons and tons of testing. Like
Hmm.
I think the first visit, I don't even want to say the number, but it was like 5 grand worth of testing. But he
Hmm.
tested for everything using um, body I don't know why the word is not coming to me, but he did everything, every
Yeah.
kind of test you could possibly think of. And then he helped her.
Hmm.
What kind of testing, like when you say a functional test,
Yeah.
what does that entail?
So I would counter it with like traditional or conventional testing would be blood work. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of value to blood work. I even run blood work. I just look at it with tight or narrow ranges. And for example, with blood work, um, you know, the standard panels don't include a full thyroid, or, it maybe includes a TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, but not your active hormones in the thyroid, like T3 or T4 that gets converted, or the antibodies. And so I include more in the blood work and look at tighter ranges. The more traditional thought of functional tests would be blood or urine and
Hmm.
saliva. So, talking about the cortisol, you can pick up on that pattern throughout the day because you're doing multiple saliva tests versus blood work gets you one point in time, which gives you some information about 8 a.m., but not the whole rest of the day. So, we don't know if that's the highest point your cortisol was at, the lowest, or the only point
Hmm.
if it's flatlined. So we like to get the whole pattern to understand, are you able to have that appropriate response when you wake up? And is it dropping throughout the day, or is it spiking again before bed, which could make it hard to sleep? And then we look at sex hormones to see what your body's producing as well as what you're clearing, because that's going to tell us about your liver and congestion. And,
Hmm.
that can correlate with people feeling tired but wired if they have a low production of cortisol, but then it's not clearing. So it's kind of hanging around the system. It can correlate with weight gain, like around the waist, particularly. And then gut functioning is another area with a stool test. And then we can see what the bacterial population is, good, bad, quote unquote. We can see if there's parasites, H. pylori, candida. We can see how well your body's digesting, absorbing foods, what kind of inflammation is going on, the immune system. So that's kind of what functional tests get into, is a little more holistic or comprehensive
Yeah.
look where you're correlating all of the things and trying to get tighter ranges, so you're not just comparing yourself to the average person doing the blood work, which is going to be what's our American, they're going to
Hmm.
be, not maybe what your goal is. They're not maybe thriving. They might just be surviving or waiting till they get bad enough to go on a prescription. So the functional labs help people figure out how they're going to feel their best and, be the best version of them.
Right. W- Yeah, I agree. And that's awesome that you do all that complete. I mean, I love that because there's, again, you hear all these things like right now, everywhere you look online, there's parasite cleanse, do this
Mhm.
and do that. Like I remember one lady, she was buying a tea the other day and it was just it literally said get rid of bugs or something like that. And it was like this herbal tea and it had everything in it. It had wormwood, it had
Yeah.
everything in it. And she was talking about getting ready to take it. And I was just kind of like, that can be dangerous. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
herbs and stuff, I mean, it's natural, but it still can be dangerous. And I know, like right now, that's the big thing. And there's all these conversations about do you use a binder? Do you do this? How do you do a parasite cleanse? But explain to people, and just from you are a doctor, explain to them that there are good bacteria and good bugs in your body.
Yes, yes, there are. And the question I like to ask, instead of that's still an allopathic approach if you're trying to plug holes downstream, why are you a good host for the parasite in the first place? Because if your immune system's functionally operating, it should take care of the parasite or the cancer cells or the virus or the bacteria that comes in. It's when we've been in that chronic state for too long that our immune system's compromised. And then all of a sudden, all these things can take residence in our body, whether it's the bugs, the inflammation, the excess weight, the hormone imbalance. And so, yes, sometimes you have that band aid approach concurrently while you're working on making you a less desirable host for these things.
Like
And
cutting out sugar because
yes. And so, yeah. And I see people do this all the time. They skip the whole diet piece, the whole movement piece, because they're like, well, what supplement can I take for this, or that? And not actually deal with the root of the whole thing. And so
right,
it's, you can outrun a bad diet, you can out supplement a crappy lifestyle. That's not really addressing, the core of it. It's kind of a
right.
distraction.
Right. It's I have a like an energy scan thing. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of them, like the biofrequency energy scan.
Ooh,
And
cool.
it is really interesting. It's done with a voice and it detects like 171,000 frequency imbalances. And it's funny that and it doesn't like again, I'll run it for people because it's more education,
Yeah.
not diagnostic by any terms, but it's like a snapshot in time. Like you said, that's
Yeah.
what blood work is. That's what this
Mhm.
is. It's your energy, your frequencies at the time. But it is very interesting the things that it pulls up, like T3 and T4,
Yeah.
and it really goes down. And I mean, and you can start to see patterns, and it is kind of neat. And I'm not a big fan. I don't love Chat GTP, but I do love that you can take a snapshot and say, what are some good diet tips for
Mhm.
this? For this, if this was the way it would be. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, it's not completely accurate. If I go eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and stuff it full of peanut butter, there's a good chance when I do the scan tomorrow, I'm going to test for like gallbladder or something because my body is going, oh, I don't normally do this. Like, help me. So it is, you have to come up with patterns and stuff. But if you had to give like 5 tips, like 5 diet changes that every human should make right now, what
Mhm.
would they be?
I would say start with hydration first thing in the morning because that's something that's really going to support your body's detox pathways, just doing what they should naturally do 24/7. And I would say get something protein forward, maybe by 9, 10 a.m., just to tell your body, hey, I'm in a safe spot and it doesn't need to be stressed and hang on to things and slowly go through it. I would say get outside or at least look at the sunrise, sunset, just to get, the light, which is really going to help with sleep because sleep and recovery is so important.
Mm.
And just get some real food in. And I like to just start simple because it can be so overwhelming. Just start with one meal or one, whether it's breakfast or maybe dinner's your focus, but just pick one thing because if you try to go from like zero to hero, it's pretty
Yeah.
overwhelming and it's less likely to stick and just something you're excited about and really connected into why it's important to you because your motivation will kick things off initially but it's not going to carry you through the times where you're tired, you're stressed, you have invitations to places that oh yeah that kind of sounds good too, you kind of get off course. So really connecting with why something's important before you kind of start making those changes.
Yeah, and I always tell people thank you for that because I mean, I want to give people some quick, just
Yeah.
something to do right now. And the
Yeah.
hydration in the morning and the sunlight in the morning. It was
Hmm.
actually funny when I had my stroke in January. It was the neurologist that told me how, what time do you get out in the morning? Like, what's the
Mhm.
first time you go outside? And I said, about 7:30 or 8, I walk my dog. And she said, perfect. She said,
Yeah.
always try to get outside. She said, your circadian
Yeah.
rhythms will
Hmm.
kind of come into play and,
Yes.
it all kicks in.
Yes.
And y-
Because
go
if
ahead.
because we can't always control the stressors that come at us during the day. And if we get really quality sleep recovery, we're much more resilient to be able to handle those things. So, that's where really prioritizing rest and recovery. It's so underutilized. And these are all free, right? Getting quality sleep, get to bed before 10 p.m. That's when you're going to get maximize the restoration, staying hydrated, walking outside. Like you don't need to pay for any of those things. And so I like things that don't feel like, oh, one more financial commitment that we can
Hmm.
just start doing literally today.
Yeah, absolutely. And celebrate the things you do. I think I was talking
Yes.
before, I had a client, she just was like, oh, I can't I only walked one time around the pond. And I'm like, but you walked one time around the pond, and that's
Yeah.
one more time than you did yesterday. Because we
Hmm.
get into this, especially people that grew up in this I'm not good enough
Yeah.
thing. You do want to go from zero to hero, or else you
Yeah.
think you're a failure. And it's
Hmm.
just one baby step. I have people that are like, oh, when we talk about soda, I'm like, stop with the soda. Like that is crazy. I'm like, we clean our batteries for my
Yeah.
husband's boat with Coca-Cola. Like, why would you drink six of them a
Yeah.
day? But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But but I'm like, when you go to grab a Coke and a glass of water.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
don't let yourself have that second Coke until
Yeah.
you've had two glasses of water. So it's just but it is the hardest part, that getting started. Do you
Yeah.
have any suggestions on if like you can't get past that,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it?
Yeah. So if it's the water in the morning, you start with setting the glass, by the sink or whatever you go to first thing in the morning. So you visually see it. And maybe you don't even drink it, but the action is setting the glass there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you start getting into that pattern. And then you're probably at some point going to be like, I might as well just have a sip. And same with like walking outside, just putting the shoes on. It sounds kind of crazy that it's that small, but that's probably going to be more successful than putting them on and going for a 30-minute walk. And you know what I mean? And so if you can start conditioning or reinforcing the neural pathways to initiate the motion or the activity, that actually is going to have pretty big success.
Yep. I love that.
Hmm.
I started doing that. I was really bad about water, but I started just setting my water bottle next to my cup and my vitamin. Like I
Hmm.
take one thing in the morning and I just do that. It's just
Yeah.
habit now. Before I get in the shower, I walk past my water and my vitamin, just boop boop,
Yeah.
get in the
Yeah.
shower because it's something,
It,
and it's the small things. It really is.
mhm.
And but they can make such a huge difference. Hydration is unbelievable. What would you, I mean, what percentage of your body is water?
Well, I thought you were going to ask how much water to drink a day.
Well, I'll get to that.
It's quite a bit percentage, and it goes down as we get older because that's why we get a little more pruny as we get older. But it's what 70 some percent, something like that.
Hmm.
It's up there.
Yeah,
And for ounces of your body, half your body weight in ounces minimum per day. And then as you're more active or as you have sugars or alcohol or caffeine or pharmaceuticals, you need more as you sweat. So a lot of people don't realize how their energy levels negatively impacted when they're a touch dehydrated. And you don't feel like, oh, I'm parched when you're dehydrated. 1% dehydration affects your cognitive performance, your physical performance. People tend to mistake thirst as hunger, so then they'll eat more. They just kind of feel off. So it's a great way. After you've been sleeping all night, you're dehydrated, and so just to kind of replenish that first thing in the morning is a great way. And if people don't love plain water, you could add some lemon to it, or you could add like a little pinch of sea salt and then, any citrus to change it up. You could do some teas, but it's always great to get pure, just, clean source water.
pure water. And what do you think about, I mean, are you a stickler on like filtered water versus tap water? I mean, even like filtered water through my refrigerator is still not great, honestly.
Correct. Yeah, I know. And tap water, usually has a bunch of extra things that we don't want in it. We live in the mountains, so we've got well water, which can actually be really good as long as it's tested. They recommend the super filters you put under your sinks. But yeah, your source of water definitely can vary, and the Brita filters, the fridge filters don't really do much. So the unfortunate
Yeah,
part.
yeah, we bought a my friend is actually going through cancer right now,
Hmm.
and so she's very careful. She got a Berkey water system, and
Hmm.
it's a good little, that was a good one. And we went and bought the little water test strips, and I used them. We used them for her, and I'm like, wow, your water's really good. And then I came home and I was like, here's my tap water, here's my water coming out of my refrigerator, and I'm like, short of the chlorine, there's
Yeah.
really no other difference. So it's
Yeah.
literally filtering chlorine, and that's it.
Which is great though. Get that
I mean,
out. Yeah.
it needs to filter that, but I'm like,
Yeah.
it didn't filter any of the other crap.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot more still in there.
Well, you're in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Where my daughter lives in Denver. When you move into a new apartment or you change your address to a Denver address, they give you a Brita filter and ask you not to drink the water without it.
Wow.
That's pretty sad.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that? I mean, that's from the water company. They literally give you one. And those are
Oh
what,
my gosh.
50, $60 for them
Yeah.
think to have that little faith in their own water.
Oh
But
my
that was,
gosh.
yeah.
I
So
did
I
not
mean,
know
I
that.
think, yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think hydration, you're right, is one of the biggest keys. If you can just I lived for years and I don't like water. I'm just going to be honest. I just
Yeah.
don't like the taste of it. But for years, I mean, coffee, milk, and beer were my liquids. That's
Yep.
all I drank.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm talking years.
Yeah.
And it would be people would I mean, I would have a sip only when I went out to eat. It was the
Yeah.
only time I drank water for,
Yeah.
I would say, probably the first 30 years of my life.
Yep. And I think that's more common than people realize. And we need water for, like I was mentioning, detoxification processes to take place because that's what allows the toxins that are immobilized from your tissues to exit the body. So if you
Right,
don't have the fluids, they're just recirculating and you feel crummy when you have a bunch of toxins recirculating throughout your system. And toxins are a normal part of our metabolic processes. We just want them
right.
out. That's
Yeah,
also normal to get them out. So, what's not normal is not having enough hydration or fluids in your body to facilitate that process.
right. I mean, I always say that. I'm like, that's why they call it waste.
Yeah.
It is
Well,
waste. It needs to leave. Waste
yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
go out of your body.
I mean,
But
so many
wow.
people have kidney stones and they
Hmm.
want to go in and do these procedures, and you find out they're drinking like 30 ounces of water a day. I'm like, it's gonna jam up. Like, that's just the nature of it. Yeah. Really?
I did. I mean, I still have several actually that I haven't tried to move, but I did pass one, and then I was like, okay, enough is enough,
Yeah.
and that hurt. That was bad. That
I've
was
heard
really
they're
bad.
super painful. So,
Yeah,
is it you'd
I
rather
would
drink
rather
your
have
water?
I'd rather drink my water, and I'd also honestly rather have my own eyeballs gouged out or
Ew.
have three babies back to back than
Oh
have
my
another kidney
God.
stone. Like it was horrible. And then I have one, and I'm curious to see when I had a bunch of medical procedures. They were like, you have a I think it's 8 or 9 inch or millimeter, 8 or 9 millimeter kidney stone in there. And I was like, yeah, that's what they
Oh,
said. Because when I passed one, I had like four more.
right.
Um, Praying they never passed, but I'm taking like some herbs and I drink lemon, or like I put one drop of lemon oil,
Yeah.
a good lemon oil, not just any lemon oil,
Yeah. Yeah.
but in my water every day. And they say that that kind of will break them down. And
Yeah.
I take something called Stone Breaker. And
Yep. Hmm.
so, knock on wood, like
Yeah.
hopefully when the time comes. But yeah, and I know that's the doctor, as I'm like doubled over, he's like, well, you need to drink more water. I'm like, you really need to tell me this now, like
Thank
seriously.
you. Yeah.
I'm like, I get it. I'm like 30 years past due, but I got it. But no,
Yeah.
hydration is so vitally important
Hmm.
along with everything else. But wow, this has been super fun. I could literally talk to you about this stuff forever, but tell us about how you work, if you are just in person, if
Yeah.
you do, tell us about your programs
Sure.
and what you do.
Yeah, I do all my work even with locals virtually, so it makes it accessible to people anywhere. And yeah, I have different tiers of programs depending on if people want to focus primarily on energy management, meaning finding the right foods for their bodies, figuring out the right work recovery, sleep for their sleep, or sleep for their performance, whether that's personal, professional, athletic. And then if people want to really dig deeper, figuring out more personalized biodata from continuous glucose monitor, the different functional labs. And yeah, my website's mypeak365.com. And that's the best way. I like to share different recipes, videos of making different foods, because I think so much of our health is from the fundamentals. It's so easy to get caught up in the leaves of the tree and which supplement, which powder, which, I'm like, those things don't matter if you don't have hydration, movement, basic, proteins figured out. That's for like way down the road, if at all.
Right.
And so kind of figuring out what's the right order of operations, where's the lowest hanging fruit, and what's specific to my body, because we're all a little bit different.
Right.
Hmm.
Perfect. So you can do, and so like something like you needed a stool sample, like you have kits, you have all that
Oh yeah.
stuff that gets,
Yep,
yeah,
they
but
ship to people's homes. When I do the blood work, it's a requisition that people take into either LabCorp or their local hospital, which then ships it to LabCorp. I get all the results. I spend, a good 90 minutes, writing up everything. And then we go over what does this mean in the big picture. And then when we're going through the programs, they're either 6, 12, or 18 sessions. So it's going to take somewhere between 3 and 12 months, because it's not like, here's your results, good luck. It's, as you
yeah,
know, it's the coaching where the transformation happens. That's where you really dig into the specifics for each person, and then getting into different curriculum like metabolism and digestion and sleep and performance, and like with the gut connection to overall health and hormones. And so there's so much to dig into that you want to make it, no pun intended, digestible, but then specific where, okay, here are the action items. Spend 2, 3 weeks kind of working on them, applying them, come back. We'll see what's good, what's working well, where the challenge is, make some tweaks, get some new content in, and just keep learning. Because, sometimes people think, because of, I think, our Western model of, I only need to do work if there's something majorly wrong. But that's not it. Like, we all have work we can do, whether it's mentally, physically, any realm. And just because you're not broken doesn't mean you're optimized. And like, who doesn't
right,
want to be their best? Like, that's kind of the whole point. Like, if you have passions and things you want to do, it's a lot easier to do it when you feel awesome versus when you're just limping along, barely able to get out of bed. So, how
right.
do we optimize the energy? How do we, thrive and not just barely hang on and survive?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, at the end of the day, prevention is so much easier than intervention
Yeah.
anyway. People are
100%.
like, well, I don't want to buy this because it's going to cost me $400, but yet your emergency room visit when you have a heart attack 3 years from now is going to cost you way more.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, if quality life is valuable to you, it's an investment in yourself. It's only an
Mhm.
expense if you don't find the value to it. And,
Right.
again, some people would rather deal with things on the back end, but it ends up being way more expensive and it's not fun.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. I
not the
did.
fun way to go.
No, it's not at all. I did one time an experiment because somebody was like talking about something and we were talking about gut health and I was talking about the need for just really, let's get this under control because and I don't know what it was, but there was some expense or some papaya or something that I had said and they were like, "That's like $14." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Let's add up how many Tums I took when for 15 years, and this
Yeah.
is no joke, Katie, for
Yeah.
15 years, I took two one-a-days, like
Wow.
Prilosec or whatever the
Yep.
one a
Yep.
day, two of them, and then 10 to 12 of the Tums
Yeah.
chewables,
Mm-hmm.
which are like 1,200 milligrams a piece. So that's like
Yep.
seven chalky ones.
Yeah.
So for
And
15 years, I took two one-a-days and 84 Tums a day. And we figured it out one time at this price, like
oh
what it would
God.
cost a year. And I'm like, so how about we just buy the papaya and shut up?
Yeah. Well, and you know what that does to your gut long term? It makes it so you're a better host for organisms to live there, because your stomach acid, which we
Hmm.
need to kill them and to break down our food, so you're not getting the nutrients to the cellular level. And now all these things can take residence because you're basically allowing that environment to have no acid and for all those things to flourish. So then you
Absolutely.
have all that.
Yes, I very well. Actually, my husband and I were just talking about that last night. He's like, "It's been 6 years since you've had a Tums," and I was like, "I know, like, isn't that
Wow.
awesome?" Yeah, 6 years, totally no Tums free. I mean, which
You
is a
might be
big
getting
deal.
taller still. Yeah.
I might still be growing. I think I'm about 5'2" now, so I've got this. I got this. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I so appreciate it, but you're not off the hook yet.
Okay.
One big words of wisdom from Katie Hardie.
One big words of wisdom. I would say take time to sit down and either breathe or read or do something to get you out of that fight or flight. Because I think that's so under recognized and utilized in our culture that incentivizes and rewards people for, it's the badge of honor for being the craziest, busiest person and doing all the things. And in order to continue doing all the things that are important, you have to like let that recovery, the nervous system, everything come down low to be able to push high and push the most you can. So carving out, 5 minutes minimum to, sit down and just you do you, whatever that's going to be calming and enjoyable for you. Because your
I love it.
nutrition's going to work so much better, your workout recovery is going to be so much better, your energy going into work or other being around other humans is going to be so much better when you kind of have that space to let it all come down for a minute.
Oh, I love it. And it's so true. So true. Thank you so much for coming on, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And for everybody else out there listening, check out the show notes. Go talk with Katie. Just see what she has to offer. It's amazing. And your nutrition is so vitally important and behind the scenes stuff. And guys know, if you know me, I'm not a huge pill popper, that's for sure. So learn how to take care of your body today so that you don't have to pop the pills tomorrow.